So Austin, tell us about Gears Pop.
Oh yeah.
Oh god, you're fucking kidding me.
That's the phone one that you keep playing,
So
right?
like
Yeah.
Pop vinyls.
I saw you playing Gears Pop on Xbox Live the other day, and I was about to send you a message calling you a coward.
I was
Wait, it's
playing,
on Xbox?
So you log in with your Xbox Live.
Okay,
Does it all
on the
talk?
phone.
Huh?
Does it all talk?
So Matt was playing.
I thought pop figures couldn't
My roommate Matt was playing Resident Evil on the TV, and I was playing Gears Pop and watching him, and I got an achievement, and it popped up on the Xbox, and it was like play 10 times with Marcus Phoenix or whatever, and Matt's just like, I'm playing Resident Evil, I don't get it, and it was like I had to like admit, I was like, I'm playing Gears Pop. It was like when your mom catches you masturbating.
Wait, is that how that ends? That scenario ends? Is I was masturbating.
Yeah, you ever play Clash Royale?
No.
So it's like it's like a really good game,
It's like that.
but like completely utterly ruined by microtransactions. Like it is the most pay to win thing ever.
That ruins it more than the pop figures?
Because you can level up your little pop vinyls, and then they do more damage and have more health, but you could just buy the things to level them up.
What is the game? What do you do?
Okay, so the way it works is you have a base at each side of the screen. Your base is on the bottom and their base is on the top. And then there's pieces of cover along the way. And you have power that's slowly building. It's like mana. And then you drag and drop pop vinyls onto the thing. And then they run forward and kill whatever's in their path. And it's basically just like...
So it's like Plants vs. Zombies.
Trying to overwhelm the... Yeah, it's like
They
multiplayer Plants vs.
showcased
Zombies.
The Last of Us 2 this year.
Yeah.
A sequel that looks incredible to one of the most incredible narrative and gameplay driven games I've ever played in my life.
Yeah.
And you're fucking explaining to me Gears Pop.
Yeah, because what else am I supposed to play from now till when Last of Us comes out?
Borderlands.
Does it still
It's
have...
not out.
Does it still have, like, gore in it?
No. So when you win,
Do they explode into Legos?
no, when you win, your guys both hop over cover and they meet in the middle and they go to chainsaw each other. But then whoever lost, their pop vinyl just vibrates and then their head goes and pops off.
Wait,
Yeah, they were gonna
and then it
explode
rolls
him.
around.
you
No.
can't pop the head off a pop vinyl.
No,
I've
but
tried.
you can if you beat it in Gears Pop.
No, literally. All right, they hop over the walls and they go to chainsaw each other, and then boom, it flashes to a live leak video of some guy's head getting cut off. Now that's the kind of game I'm trying to play.
Listen,
Does the game still scream like fuck and shit out of your
No.
phone? That'd be pretty funny. I'm playing
they're
Gears Pop
still-
and you just hear
there's-
Dom being like,
the
"I
voice
need to-"
actors are still in it, but they're like chipmunked.
Oh,
pitch
no.
shift.
Oh, like
it up.
Animal Crossing,
No,
but more.
But John
It's
DiMaggio is still in
it's
it.
like pitch shifted up, yeah, because he's a pop vinyl.
That's adorable.
Listen,
Yeah, pop vinyls are known for their high-pitched voices.
listen,
That is the biggest
number
thing.
one, I hate pop vinyls
Then what the
Yes.
fuck?
a lot.
Great,
Yeah.
there goes half our audience.
But at
Sorry,
the
I was
same
gonna talk
time,
you
about
must
I don't
also
like
hate
Last of Us.
GameStop.
I do. I really do.
Oh, I think we unanimously hate GameStop here.
But
I like their T-shirts.
but the problem is that I am an idiot. Where if anybody has a good idea for a game,
Let's get
and
that. Let's
it's
get
like,
that soundbite.
if anybody has a good idea for a game and they're like if somebody comes out with a fighting game and it's like amazing, but I don't recognize the characters, I'm not gonna buy it.
No, yeah, I
but then
agree.
if Street Fighter 6 comes out and it's that exact same thing but worse, but it has Ryu in it, I'll buy that one because
Yeah,
I'm
I
dumb.
get it.
So like Clash Royale is dragons and people with swords and shit, and it's made by the Clash of Clans people, and it's stupid. But Gears Pop, like I know who Marcus Phoenix is. I also played the Command and Conquer game, which was the same thing.
And I love Command and Conquer.
Yeah, so you should play that.
No, it's not. It's just
Subscribe. Just give in to capitalism in the world. You'll be much more sad. All right. With that,
yeah. That'd be.
Wow.
So we've covered some of the most celebrated video games and consoles ever to grace this fine industry here on our show, but very rarely do we get
Like the Ouya.
like the Ouya, and Gears Pop. But very rarely do we get deep into the actual history of a single particular individual and their personal venture with the studio that has been responsible for making them. Part of that reason is because some of those revered artists credited for their successes can also come with a bit of nefarious baggage as well. And what finer example of this is there out there in the world of modern video games than the unfortunately named Randy Pitchford, an undeniably important,
fun.
albeit severely problematic man who is technically both directly and indirectly accountable for giving us some of the most influential shooters ever to break into the medium, as well as some of the biggest, most laughable, colossal failures, too. And many within only years of each other. Half-Life to Alien, Colonial Marines, Borderlands to Battleborn, Brothers in Arms to fucking Duke Nukem Forever. Company Gearbox seems to exclusively only dabble in the extremes, and we're here to lay down the tell-all story. I'm Randall Beatrice, here with Austin Blakesley, Chris Anantuano,
It's me!
and our recurring guest, Melanie Grear.
Buy my bathwater.
Recurring?
Yeah,
She was on the
the
commentary.
Oh, yeah.
that's why
I heard my
I was going to
voice.
ask how you've been since the amazing Super Mario Brothers movie. I'm honestly shocked you came back, because I don't think I could get Chelsea to come back to this room again if I tried.
Yeah, Jason hasn't been here for weeks, and he's part of the podcast.
Is that because...
Here's the thing. I'm terribly insecure, so just the fact that you think I have something to say on any subject, I'm like, yeah, I'll talk to you about whatever for however long.
You are the official Borderlands expert.
Was that hard for you to get out?
See, the alcohol I'm drinking has a lot of sugar in it, so when you don't drink it right, it hurts your big talk hole. No, I listened to you drone on. That's maybe not the best words, but maybe arguably the best words about Borderlands forever. So I don't think
the word
anybody's
you're
better
looking for
to
is
talk about it.
manifesto. So
He keeps saying he's trying to not get me too'd on this, and then he just keeps, digging himself deeper.
But yeah, tell us all about Randy.
This is gonna be
I'm so
I know, it's
excited.
it's gonna be my favorite episode because I get to talk shit on Randy. He doesn't know which Randy I'm talking about.
I'm the one that's not a pervert.
I specifically refer to him as Pitchford in my script every time, so I didn't get it confused
no, it
with
was
you.
Bitchford is what the...
No, that's the title of the script.
That's I think that we should refer to him as Duval Magic because clearly that's what he wants to be doing right now.
Was that his alien? Does he
That's
have
his Twitter handle.
That's still his Twitter handle.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask if he had a magician stage name.
I don't know.
So,
Probably Duval.
a couple of things up front. Number one, all things go right. This should be coming out on the launch day of Borderlands 3.
Yes.
Which
What better way to...
we are all very excited for,
Yeah,
despite
This is
what we're about to
actually-
talk about.
Press.
Listen to this while you're playing your looter shooter.
It's cool. This is our 4-player co-op
Yeah.
that we're ready for.
Yes.
I want to be
this
the
is-
guy that gets Randy Pitchford mad enough to add us.
Yeah, right?
that would do us
Yeah, Randy, if
wonders.
you're listening, DM me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we are open to interview you and have,
I'm just
you
kidding.
set the record straight on all of this.
I don't want to be intentionally antagonistic. Let's just
No.
tell the facts.
No.
This is the facts.
In fact, we I almost
Oh, wow.
brought this up earlier. I know that me and you watched it, Chris. Austin, I assume you watched as well. But Daniel Dwyer's No Clip documentary on the Half-Life series has a lot of interviews with Randy Pitchford in it, and it's funny because just from watching that, they're incredibly sincere.
Yeah,
and,
if you were to just watch that and that would be the only thing you knew about him, you'd be like,
yeah,
oh, cool.
and he kind of got dicked over.
Me and Melanie talked about this.
It's complicated. He's a
He's
complicated
listening.
person.
He is very good at what he does,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
but he knows it.
He is a figurehead.
He is a figurehead, and he knows how good he is at it, and
The face of-
he can let that get in the way sometimes and sort of tell people off, but he is very good, and a lot of good games and that company would not exist were it not for him. So
Right. Like,
Yeah.
I am the biggest... Like, I'm a huge fan, obviously, of the Borderlands series because it's the only game besides Animal Crossing I really play. But
They're very similar.
yeah, they are. Yeah, my two
Was Three
personalities.
Nuts an Animal Crossing character, or was that a Borderlands character? I don't remember.
But like, I'm watching.
You're trying to get all the guns to pay off your mortgage for your house.
The thing about Randy Pitchford is that like he's a very talented programmer, game designer, figurehead for Gearbox,
Magician?
all of that. But all of that ego and all of that.
Oh, he's kind of the definition of it. Yeah.
Right. All of that positive praise goes to every aspect of his personality and every aspect of who he is.
He's got the right to gloat sometimes.
Undeserved? Yeah, not really.
Yeah.
It's somewhat deserved.
Video games are a collaborative thing.
Yes.
I think, Austin, you told me to watch a video the other day that, not to, completely just recommend or reference somebody else's YouTube channel, but you told me about the H-Bomber guy's video about director.
No, I will absolutely promo H-Bomber guy. He's fucking incredible.
And that video is great because it talks about how it was just basically like, when did that become, like, to us, like, a director was just the only person responsible for giving us, like, an entire film, like a whole project, when in reality it's so many people.
All right.
So
let's get into it.
Yeah. So where did he come from?
One more thing up front.
Okay.
I wrote this script. I started out thinking this was going to be one episode. My script is like 14 pages long, so this is going to be a two-parter. So part one is actually not going to be as much about Randy Pitchford himself. It'll be more about him founding Gearbox with a couple other people, and then Gearbox's ascent, and then Borderlands, and then next week we're probably going to get into Randy Pitchford's antics himself.
Oh man, there's a lot.
Yeah. So we spent a lot of time.
I scroll through this thing. It's just a link to just every single instance of something dumb that he got himself involved with. It's extensive.
That's what I've been watching all day. I'm just like, all right, I'm ready.
We're gonna start with a little bit of a backstory on Randy Pitchford himself. Randy Pitchford began programming when he was 5. In an interview,
inarguably very impressive.
He described his dad as working for the back then equivalent of the NSA, and as like the Q for America. James Bond's Q. Like, he apparently designed like spy gadgets and computers and shit.
He straight up says in that IGN interview, "My dad was a spy, but like not the cool kind, the Q kind."
Yes, exactly. And apparently his dad would bring home computers and stuff that he made at work and designed, and he would give them to Randy Pitchford, and that's how he got real into programming.
Okay.
He wrote his first game, which was a text adventure, when he was around 11 or 12 years old. There's different reports on that.
And then he took on the persona Zero Cool. And then he
no more hackers references.
I don't know if you know this or this is in your script, but he came from a considerably wealthy family as well, right?
Well, his dad worked for the government. Yes.
Okay. Does being a spy pay super well?
When it's for the government,
they pay them very well because they're usually not alive for very long.
Yeah. But programming was not Pitchford's only love when he was a kid. You see, Randy Pitchford is also the nephew of someone named Richard Valentine Pitchford, better known by the stage name Cardini. Who was
not the Great Cardini?
The Great Cardini.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was like a World War II era magician who was very famous.
I've actually heard.
So he hasn't let that go at all.
Yeah.
Cardini died when Randy Pitchford was only 2, but his aunt, who was married to Cardini, used to tell him stories, and that inspired him to take up magic at a very early age.
He's been doing it for a long time.
He's been doing it for a very long time.
And we've seen him perform Magic live.
Yes.
He's a decent musician. Magician.
And also a musician.
Is he a musician as well?
Yeah, he is also
He looks like Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age.
He does. I've seen him videos of him like playing guitar and stuff. He's actually pretty good at that too.
Yeah, I watched him play guitar in his house earlier when he was plugging that NVIDIA thing.
The controller, the NVIDIA controller.
Yeah, it was like a crib-style tour of Randy Pitchford's home, and it was his son was wearing a leather fedora and a tan sport coat.
So flash forward to college, Randy Pitchford went to UCLA to get a law degree, and this is also
where do you think that would help him out more right now?
This is also where he met his wife. His wife saw how unenthused he was about law.
Gotcha.
And told him that he should pursue a career in his real passion, video games or magic.
Sure.
He chose video games.
Okay.
So he continued to make more video games on the side, and he would upload them to the internet so that people could see them and play them. And he also continued his magic career to help pay for college and even gain membership to the famous Magic Castle in LA, which is like
magicians notoriously wealthy.
Yes. Well, that's imagine if you told somebody, I paid for college with magic. Like that's fucking crazy.
That's a crazy way to say selling drugs, but
Listen, the 80s were a different time.
yeah.
Well, he also
Very
probably
full
had
of
all that
drugs, too.
clout from his, Cardini.
He did also
Cardini Club.
host a memorial for his uncle when he died,
Oh, okay.
because he was a member then.
Did he make the body disappear?
He'd already been dead for some 20 plus years.
He
at
was
that
dead
point.
since Randy Pitchford was 2, dude.
But, did he make it disappear, though?
I don't think so.
Randy Pitchford was the Masked Magician. Do you remember the Masked Magician?
Yeah, on Fox,
Yeah.
who exposed all the secrets.
Yeah. Do you remember he made was it a tank disappear? And they're like, nah, we
did.
just moved the camera.
Other magicians hated that guy.
Yeah, I imagine.
But yeah, after college, he sent out some resumes to some video game companies, and one in particular responded and accepted an offer, Apogee Software.
I know them.
And they had just got done publishing their new game, Wolfenstein 3D,
Yeah.
in conjunction with id Software.
id,
Is that
notorious company for putting out no good games ever.
I can't even. What is this, 93? 94?
It would have been 94.
Okay.
And the company would later, in 1996, when Randy Pitchford was working there, go on to change their name to 3D Realms.
Yes.
And release games such as Duke Nukem 3D in 1996 and Shadow Warrior in 1997.
I never played Shadow Warrior. I played
Both
Duke
of
Nukem
which
3D.
Randy Pitchford is credited as working on.
God, I love id games so much.
And shortly after the release of Shadow Warrior, he left 3D Realms with a couple other employees to form a company called Rebel Boat Rockers.
I don't know about
Yeah.
that name.
Yeah, well.
Oh, we'll get to some names in a bit. They worked on one game for EA called Prax Wars,
I was
which
about to say, I never
another
played
shooter.
that, but that...
It was canceled
Yeah.
by EA in 1999.
Okay.
After that, the employees of Rebel Boat Rocker disbanded, reformed, roped in a couple more 3D Realms employees and even some Bethesda employees to form Gearbox Software.
Yes.
Named after how smoothly their games would run, like the transmission in a car with a good gearbox.
Oh. Okay.
Yes, that's where the name comes from. I mean, their games do run smoothly.
Not when your Xbox is as old as mine.
Well, get an Xbox One X. I don't know what to tell you.
Shut up.
Okay, so now Gearbox is founded on February 16th, 1999.
That's when I was born.
No, it's not.
Why do we
think about
stop
it
to
for a
think
second.
about it?
Yeah, I love
Oh
that.
my God.
Do you all think I'm that young?
Well, you're drinking alcohol, so I would hope not. Because I think that would make you 20. No, 21. You're good.
No, I would still be 20. I would be 21 in 2020. If I was born in 99.
Nice.
Think about
99
it.
to
Next year's 2020. If you were born in the year 2000, you're 57 years old next year.
amazing.
That is insane.
How did you do
I will
that?
never get over that.
Math would like to disagree with you, but we got to get through this. So
Math
just
has
gonna roll
entered the
through.
chat.
So the company started by developing some expansions for a little game called Half-Life
Yes.
for a company called Valve.
Never heard of either of them.
So exploded in hugely successful 1998
Yes.
release. Yeah. So this is
And then these are also very successful.
Yeah.
An expansion named Opposing Force,
yes.
an expansion named Blue Shift.
Blue Shift is
Both
so
of which are
cool.
very cool. Yeah.
Yes.
So they're so they run parallel to the Half-Life story from the perspective
Yes.
of a Marine to cover it up, and then of Barney, the security.
Exactly, the
yeah.
security officer. As
Yeah.
we talked about, we were talking about that No Clip documentary. It really made me think about how cool that was. Like, that had never been fucking done ever.
No,
I remember
yeah.
getting like a box that had a bunch of them.
Yeah, all
I think it might have
packaged
just been
together.
it might have been Counter-Strike, Blue Shift, Opposing Force, and Half-Life all in the same
Yeah,
like
I think I had the same box.
classic like PC box that had the little Velcro piece that you folded out. And
yeah.
you're like, look at all these cool fucking screenshots.
Yep.
Yep.
And like, I remember like playing that with my friend Alex at his parents' house. They had a parrot that would sit on our shoulders while we played games. This is a very weird
What?
story. I know it seems weird. I'm not even joking.
Randy Pitchford would love that.
It was
though.
like 80 years old by the time
Oh,
we were
here.
like kids.
Yeah, they're
it was,
immortal,
Yeah,
yeah.
It was crazy. It didn't die till it was well over probably 90 to close to 100 years
Damn,
old.
what the fuck?
But anyway, that's irrelevant to the fact that I remember being like, oh my God, there's Gordon Freeman. Oh my God, we're just
Yeah.
like, this is just the same story from a different angle. This is so fucking
It was
cool.
really ambitious.
Like, what a weird way to look at video games very early
Yeah.
in what first-person shooters were capable of. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Half-Life series is very important to me,
Yes,
especially
me
at
too,
that time
me too.
period. Like,
And also, if you want to know more about like the development of those, that documentary covers that stuff very well.
Yes.
which is the
on-
only thing stopping
it's
me
on
from
YouTube.
wanting to do a fucking Half-Life series. Is
Yeah.
that Irish fuck did it so good.
After that,
I'm just kidding. I love you.
Valve contracted one of Randy's favorites, the port.
Yes.
This Randy, the port of Half-Life for PlayStation 2, and
Yes.
included another expansion developed
Yes.
by Gearbox known as Half-Life Decay, which was a multiplayer expansion.
Yeah, you played as the two female scientists. I think it was Green. Like, do you remember in Half-Life 1? This is very Star Wars when I approach this, but in Half-Life 1, you get the HEV suit, and there are two
Yeah.
other empty tanks.
Empty
And they
tanks,
wrote a
yeah.
whole like campaign to run alongside that. Just
Who had those
the other
suits,
two
yeah.
suits, and it was awesome. Like, I wasn't huge into PC gaming like at this point yet, and that PS2 port looked fucking awesome. Like, I mean, they later went back and those PC releases got the same up-res treatment, but
Yeah.
at the time that was like seeing Half-Life running on something where the faces looked like faces
Yeah.
was pretty impressive. I really liked that port.
That was cool.
That was well
Right.
done.
They also did the Dreamcast port of Half-Life, which included them porting Blue Shift, which
Yes.
was included in the Dreamcast
And
version.
that got canceled.
yes.
Yeah, the Dreamcast version never came out, but I think it leaked. Like a lot of stuff from it leaked.
Yep.
The Half-Life DK campaign also never made it to anything else. As far as I know, that is a piece of Half-Life still exclusively only offered on the PlayStation 2.
Nice.
They went on to do a lot of port work for some pretty famous games. They ported a lot from console to PC, including Halo Combat Evolved.
Great PC port.
Which we mentioned in our Halo episode.
Yeah.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, two of the greatest games of all time.
Yeah,
and then
I
also
agree.
James Bond 007 Nightfire.
That's a good game.
It's
not
good,
Halo or Tony Hawk 3, yeah,
good.
but it's
Yeah.
all right.
And then their last bit of, well, not their last bit of port work, but their last bit of port work for now, well, not a port. They were handled the development of Counter-Strike Condition Zero, the sequel to Counter-Strike.
Yeah. Is that like an expansion? Or was that
It's a
straight?
sequel.
That's a straight
It's a
sequel?
sequel,
Okay.
yeah.
But after a few delays and a little bit of ambition on Gearbox's part, Valve wanted the thing done a little bit faster, which is probably why it's not very good. I don't know what Gearbox's version looked like, but they were taken off of the project. Their version was scrapped, and it was restarted by Turtle Rock, the Left 4 Dead people.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
And that is the version that came out and that we probably played. Well, I know I played it.
I
played
I
on
remember going to
Xbox.
Target and stealing it. I went to Target.
Incriminating
We
yourself.
open whatever. The statute of limitations gotta be up on stealing Condition
But you just
Zero
got
from
dragged
Target.
away from the Target
Okay,
police.
here's how long ago it was. Target didn't even have red as their like appealing
yeah.
logo at this point. Like
Yeah.
it was totally different.
They did that too.
Oh my
It's
God.
the opposite of Walmart. It's the- yeah.
So yeah, I remember we go in and open the box and we just wrote down the CD key and then torrented the game file and then
cracked it.
typed no, didn't crack, just typed in the CD key that we had written
What a
down.
quaint time.
Yeah.
What a quaint time. How about the kid who bought that game and his
yeah.
CD key was invalid?
Asshole.
Yes, obviously I feel horrible in retrospect.
at
I just called
Yeah,
Valve and
it's
got a new
fine.
one.
So
Yeah.
at this time, they've proven themselves. They've made a bunch of these games that are like intertwined with very successful games, and then they've also done port work that is undeniable. Like it's
They have, and
Yeah.
they've proven that they can clearly write their own stuff because, you know, the Half-Life expansions were all
Yeah.
very well received, and for good reason. But after 6 years of porting and making expansions for other people's games, Gearbox finally decided it was time to release their first original game, Brothers in Arms Road to Hill 30.
I remember this game.
That was followed up by... I did not know this. I played both of these, did not know this. Followed by Brothers in Arms Earned in Blood later that year. One came out
What?
in March and one came out in November. They released two fucking
Holy
I
games.
never
shit.
even heard of the second
Yeah,
one.
me neither, because I played that first one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would look for any fucking shooter to live up to Call of Duty at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
And then...
Brothers in Arms was third person. That's
What
what
was
I
it? Medal of
Shows
Honor.
Brothers in
Was Call of
Arms.
Duty out yet?
Yeah, Call of Duty was out
okay.
by this
Call of
point.
Duty-
That's
Call of Duty-
2002.
Yeah. But yeah, a bunch of Brothers in Arms games. A PSP
Yeah.
Brothers in Arms game, a
Those
DS
games were
Brothers in Arms
alright.
game.
They were kind of like war games that were a little more gritty and narrative focused. Like
Yes.
they were,
Yeah.
they focused on they were much more like about like wars fucked up.
And then-
like than maybe Call of Duty and Medal of Honor were at the
As
time.
the last project before we really get into it, they were contracted by Sega to port Samba de Amigo to the
I
Wii.
had no
Did
idea.
not know that was
No.
Gearbox. That is
Good job,
Yeah, the
guys.
Morocco
Weird.
game. Yeah,
That was just like, hey, can we do this? What's the overhead? Like, can we make a
Yeah.
couple bucks on this?
Yeah.
just all like all the games that they have with guns, and then I just can't imagine booting up that game and seeing a Gearbox logo before dancing with
Yeah.
fucking Wiimote maracas. Just
But
it's so weird.
here's where we're gonna get into it.
Yeah.
In 2007, Gearbox decided, and Gearbox wasn't done, by the way. 2007 was the year before the last Brothers in Arms game was released.
Mm-hmm.
But in 2007, Gearbox had announced a bunch of new ideas that weren't Brothers in Arms.
Their relationship with Valve kind of was soured at this point. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, they were
Which,
no longer
like we said, we can
making
go into
Half-Life
it, but
stuff.
also check out that note
Yeah.
clip because it does a pretty good job at describing
Yes.
how the
Yeah.
relationship.
But-
there was a lot of friction in what happened.
That relationship led them into another relationship with a company called Sega. As I mentioned, they ported Samba de Amigo. That opened up a relationship with Sega, who had just acquired the rights to Aliens,
Yeah.
the movie, as well as
Yes.
the classic film Heat.
Yeah, which
Do you remember
I
that?
do.
There was
and
video of
yeah,
that game.
and it was funny because I'm sure you'll mention that this never came out, but like I had no idea that Gearbox or Sega was behind
Yeah.
that.
I don't know if
It's
Sega
a
was,
rad movie.
No. Gearbox acquired the Heat license and through
Okay.
another publisher who then went under, which is why the Heat game never came out.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked
Is there
about.
footage of a proposed Heat game out there?
I think there's like a prototype
All
or,
right.
or a
We talked
The
about
Alien
concept.
stuff
we talked
was
about it
published by Sega.
briefly during our Sega episode, but obviously Sega was trying to be the Disney of Japan, which is why they were moving into movies and
Yes.
I wonder
snatching
how
up
much
licenses and
money
shit.
it cost to get the rights for Heat. Like it's such a weird.
For
But-
Alien.
Yeah.
The most important point of our story, they also got an exclusive cover that year with Game Informer to announce their own brand new self-owned IP, Borderlands.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
not
I know that
self-owned.
I was gonna say
Co-owned
Battleborn,
with,
but
2K, but
Yeah.
Borderlands.
I have this issue somewhere.
So do I.
Yeah.
What?
Uh,
That was back when I didn't care because I was
now.
uninformed. I needed Game Informer. Jesus.
Yeah. That's why they call it
There's
that.
the problem. The worst part is my stepdad.
Game Informer.
Weird. You can cut
Shit,
this
now
out, Jason.
oh my god, CSGO, Global Offensive. I just got it. Global Offensive.
Yeah.
I
But,
think
like-
I made that same joke during the CSGO episode.
My stepdad used to. He was a really big gamer, and that's the only reason I ever played games ever when I was
Gamers
growing
Rise
up. And no, he's the worst. But he got Game Informer, and it was the top magazine on our like basket of bathroom reading material.
That's what that's good for.
And it was the one that like my mom
And you
got
wipe
like
your ass with.
Star and like Home Living, and I was like, "Fuck that! I'm just gonna read Game Informer. I don't know what's going on,
That's-
but like,
I love that it just
I'm just
throwing out
reading
these
it.
other magazines on the toilet. And you're like,
That's-
yeah, I'm like, fuck you, Home Improvement. I don't want that."
That's how I knew I was an adult.
Yeah.
When my sister moved out and I was still in high school.
Yeah.
And then I got my own bathroom, and the bathroom magazines changed from like Teen People into like EGM. And I was like, this is my territory.
You just look
There
at your
was-
Game Informer, another Dragon Quest.
There was
Oh, cool.
also it was a fucking large basket. Like we had a lot of magazines, but
Back when magazines used to be big. Anecdotal. Do you remember when magazines shrunk in size?
Think about all the
That's
trees that would
directly
still be
marginal
alive.
to the. That's directly marginal to the. Not marginal.
Proportional.
Yeah, proportional. Yes, to like the economy of like.
don't worry. By the time this episode comes out, Game Informer will be gone.
No, I hope. With a side note, with all my heart, I hope Game Informer outlasts GameStop.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully
Yeah,
somebody
if we gotta
buys Game
pick
Informer
one.
when
Yeah.
GameStop tanks.
Yeah.
well, GameStop is just going to get merged into Hot Topic at one point, and then Hot Topic will just sell video games offhand, and that's fine.
This did open with a conversation about pop vinyls, so
yeah, that,
Hell
well,
yeah, it did. Gears Pop available now,
do a
iOS and
GameStop
Android.
episode.
Yeah, if anybody's been to a GameStop recently, you can see their transition into a Hot Topic looking store.
By the way, side note: when The Last of Us 2 inevitably does come out and they make pop vinyls for it, you're getting all of them, buddy. Hope you like those for your Christmas present.
Do you think they would let
Yes.
How do they get the rights to all that?
Everything? I don't know.
I hope you like crushed pop vinyls on your doorstep because that's gonna be your return gift.
I have 2 pop vinyls and
Be
neither...
one of you crushed.
I have 2 pop vinyls. Neither of them are like indicative to who I am or what I like.
One of Karl Marx, then the other.
No. Dude, I would
Is
love
there
a Karl Marx
pop vinyl? What?
There are
I gotta
these
write
people
down
who
that for my new band name.
That's good. But I have K2SO from Rogue One
That was not what I was expecting you to say.
and Scrooge McDuck from DuckTales.
Okay.
I told you, neither of them make any sense.
All right.
I have the giant bird guy from BioShock because I bought it on clearance for $1.
Oh, yeah.
And then I have
Yeah,
Claptrap because I bought it on clearance for $2.
The Claptrap one doesn't have the
and I
big
have
stupid
Nathan
eyes.
Drake
Oh,
because I bought
think
that
was-
on clearance for $2
I was with
as
you
well.
when you bought that one. Yeah.
Fun fact with my ex, I did a Nathan Drake and Elena Fisher cosplay,
Oh.
and this is the shirt from it.
Somebody,
It does look like
and
Elena's
somebody
shirt.
subscribed me to Loot Crate, so I have a General Zod from Man of Steel pop vinyl as well, but that's in the
The
trash
best
somewhere.
character from the best movie.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
All right, anyway,
Dom subscribe to Men's Health before we get off.
It's weird. My
way-
nose is bleeding after I said that.
we're way off track.
All
We're
right,
getting
sorry,
back to
sorry.
Borderlands. Okay.
Oh, I'm good with that.
Yeah. So the origins of this game actually track all the way back to Brothers in Arms days. Now, clearly, Randy Pitchford, huge fan of games like Halo, which inspired Brothers in Arms, but he was also a huge fan of games like Diablo. And kudos to him, he noticed that the core gameplay loops were very different. The core gameplay loop of a shooter is like very fast. There's no leveling, you just go room to room and clear it of enemies.
Yeah.
RPGs were a lot slower, and they relied on that slower action to allow for leveling, to allow for what's the opposite of steep, more
Exponential.
shallow leveling curve, difficulty curve.
Okay.
And they did that through loot. But Pitchford had an idea, and the idea was basically like, if you could slow down a shooter just enough so that it was still fun and speed up an RPG enough so that it was just still fun, they could meet in the middle, and then you could make a shooter RPG, a role-playing shooter.
And that was a lot of their marketing for the
Yes.
first Borderlands game was like
Yeah.
an RPG and an FPS had a baby.
Is this before Schluter became a...
Yes. Yes, it was.
Okay, Looter
And then
Shooter is
Jason-
so much better than whatever
And then
you just said.
Jason Jones is like peeks around the door corner and goes like, "I got an idea for a game, guys. Back at Bungie."
runs away.
Yeah, don't tell
I heard what
Microsoft.
they're saying.
Yeah, thus, the idea for Borderlands was born. And the game was developed when it was finally announced in 2007 through the Game Informer cover that I mentioned earlier. It was not the Borderlands that we know today.
Which is a good thing. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
But
a fucking
the Game
lovely-
Informer article, which
Wow.
I did look, I can't find my copy of it, but I did look it up online, has a quote on it which says, "Mad Max meets Diablo." And that wasn't far off.
Yeah, you see some of that. A lot of that inspiration is still there.
Mad
but-
Max inspiration, definitely. Especially, just looking at the fucking intros to the first 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
They released a trailer, which I showed you last night.
Yes.
At E3 2008. Do you remember this trailer?
holy shit.
I
Yeah,
remember
I
this.
do. I remember
this
this, yeah.
trailer. Yeah, I was trying to play Dead Cells, and there was a lot of other stuff going on.
It had a much more serious tone. There was a British lady talking to you about death or whatever.
Is
It
she
was-
even in the game?
No.
She's not.
No.
Right?
She's not a character in Borderlands.
I didn't play all the way through, so I was like, maybe I lost someone, but
It was
It ends with that British
very,
lady coming out.
very realistic looking, very gritty,
dark.
Yeah.
dark.
Gray.
It was gray and brown.
I mean,
You
this
know what
is,
it reminded
this
me
is
of?
2008. The
You know
biggest
what it-
games in the world were Modern Warfare and Gears of
It
War.
reminded
Like,
me
it
of
makes-
Killzone.
Oh,
the way
yeah.
it looked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had I don't know,
Just
maybe
muddy,
look a lot
maybe,
like
just-
Killzone.
maybe it was just like the kind of parallel graphic capabilities of that
At the-
time,
yeah.
but I had that feeling when I was
Yeah.
watching it.
like
yeah.
that era where we put a snow level in so that your eyes can take a rest from all the brown. You know that
Yeah.
that whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, they do that in Borderlands.
Why are there
too,
so
I
many?
know
Why is there
that.
so much rubble on fire?
Yeah. Somebody put these out. Yeah. That's one thing I always saw in post-apocalyptic video games. You're like, this fire shouldn't still be raging.
Yeah, like, is anybody gonna is this gonna fizzle out at some point, or is this just eternal fire?
It's radiation fire. It lasts forever.
Sorry.
But the ideas for Borderlands can still be seen in the trailer. The Vault is still there. The Vault Hunters are still there. The logo was a thing.
Yeah, the logo was
the Vault
always
Hunter
there.
logo was a thing.
Skag. They
The
showed
Skags
Skags.
were there. The Psychos were there.
They showed a lot of enemies. They showed Commandant Steele, who ends up, spoilers, I guess, being the main villain
For the
of the story.
Also, what's that big fucking
Roscoe.
rhino? Roscoe.
Yeah.
Roscoe's in it. Captain Scarlet's little dude, big dude.
Yeah, and they show you a behind-the-back view of 3 Vault Hunters
Plus
looking
Commandant
up
Steele.
at the the vault, and it is Roland, Mordecai, and Lilith.
Tank
who
came
are,
later, huh?
Brick was not there,
Brick,
but the
sorry.
other 3 were there.
Yeah, his name's dumber than what you said.
Lilith was my girl for
and
that
you
first
can,
game.
You can
so-
find video of a behind closed doors demo that were there showing off at the same E3. And if you watch the demo, the menus look the same. The gun manufacturers are all still there.
Yeah, like the
Doll
you know, when
UI and stuff.
you know, when you
still,
switch
yeah.
a gun, you get that little blue like readout that has all
Yeah.
the stats.
Yeah,
the
That's the
stats.
same.
With the arrows up and down, that was
Totally.
still there.
Yeah.
When you pick up
the demo was 2 players playing, and it was Mordecai and Roland. It was
Makes sense, yeah.
same characters. Mordecai looked like Mordecai, kind of.
Still his bird.
I remember watching, I mean, like, even looking at the character models, like the comparison of Lilith from game 1 to what we're looking
They
at.
did,
for
yeah, they did go
Borderlands
through
3.
character redesigns.
Oh God, we
No, we
watched
talked about this,
the
yeah.
Borderlands 1 reveal when they revealed the new art style, which I'll get to.
Yes.
She looks like a
and then
fucking twig.
back to back with the Borderlands 3 reveal, and I was
Yeah.
like, holy shit, they added so
Yeah.
much color. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Well, it's, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, the game had a bunch of Borderlands stuff in it, but it was lacking that personality that Borderlands is known for.
Yeah,
the
it
thing that
didn't
stands
have an
Borderlands out.
identity yet.
Yes. And, people mentioned this at E3, and Borderlands was scheduled for a 2008 release date. It was supposed to come out later that year.
Yeah.
But the team got back from E3. They had an internal meeting to find out how they were going to differentiate themselves from, and one of the most ironic things in this whole thing, from the games like Fallout and Rage, who now stole Borderlands art style for Rage 2.
Oh man, those trailers for Rage 2 are like Borderlands trailers, and then the game itself is not at all like
No.
that tone. Yeah.
That's the one thing Borderlands does. We'll talk about it later when we get to the release, but Borderlands knows how to have that tone and like not abuse it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the game in the demo we watched, you can tell the game was mostly done. The physics are the same. The cars and
Animations are
enemies
the
look
same,
the same.
yeah.
The animations are the same. It just
Characters,
needed
action skills, all that.
it just
Yeah.
needed a little
The
bit
trees.
of polish.
They
But
look fucking boring, and I can't tell if that's retrospective, but
yeah,
it might be. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's fair.
I mean,
But-
like Borderlands 1.
the
Yeah,
game
yeah.
the game was already written. It had the personality that we know, but it didn't match with the art style, and it wasn't shown off to people. And there were wacky elements, like I said, the car physics and the powers were apparently wacky, although they didn't show much of that off. But it looked fucking boring, and they needed their purple cow, which
What
is
the fuck?
an
does-
advertising term that I learned while researching this, which is it's an advertising term meaning that you use flashy things to stick out from the rest of the pack.
Wait, was like the peacock metaphor not good enough for?
No, it's like you don't want to change. You don't want to change what the actual
Good
Like, I don't understand.
you don't want to change what the actual product does. So you just paint the cow purple so that it stands out from the rest of the cows.
Oh, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
I have
Okay,
not.
so time out. Who painted the cow purple for this reference to
I
exist?
assume Randy did. It was a magic
It's
trick.
a book. There's a book called Finding the Mythical Purple Cow or something.
What?
Just-
Is that like the Diablo level?
Just because I'm assuming it's old is probably racist as hell. I just get that vibe.
But
Painting the purple cow, really?
a Gearbox employee by the name of Brian Martell formed a team and got to work in secret on a prototype featuring a new art style. And they did it in secret because they didn't want to discourage the team to think that the work that they were doing was all going to be overwritten, but they wanted to find their purple cow. And that art style, as much as it defines this entire franchise, leads us to our first controversy.
Which I didn't know about
here
this.
we go.
Yeah.
You and me
'cause
both.
This went on to sort
neither
of
did I.
be one of the most influential like gaming art styles ever, and
Yes. In 2010, early 2010, right after Borderlands 1 came out, somebody found very striking similarities between Borderlands art style and some of their animations and the way that the characters moved, and a short film from 2006 by the name of Code Hunters.
I watched this after I saw... It's on
Yeah.
YouTube, but I
Yeah.
watched this after I saw this in your...
Yeah, if anybody out there is interested, look it up. You will. Melanie literally sat there and went, "Wow,
Yeah.
wow."
Yeah, I played the first game, the remaster, and I play the second game like very, very regularly to the point where it's like burned into my psyche, like the visuals from it. So Austin put this on for us last night to watch, just going into this episode, and it opens, and I was like,
Oh, with the...
With
That
a
looks-
literal bust that's
It is.
shaped exactly the same
Here's
as
the thing.
the first fucking
It is
bust.
a little bit uncanny, but the one thing I will say is that the color palette of the whole thing is very muted as opposed to
yes,
Borderlands.
and that's what I said
That's
last
something we
night.
mentioned.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
outlines are
Also,
very
the other
similar.
thing, no
but-
offense
What
to
I-
the guy who made it. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, what I was saying is that like the bus, obviously, the driving on the road is something they do for their intros for Borderlands.
Yeah.
But I'm watching like the road as a character's walking down it, and the patterns of debris look so similar to even what's in Borderlands 2.
The
There are
environments
some-
look
I
very
think that's
similar.
Exactly.
I think it's a consequence of skinning things that way, because those type of structures are kind of a commonplace in art in general. If you draw a pile of rocks, they tend to look similar than most people's pile of rocks.
Yeah.
And that's
you know
fair.
what I mean, like things
But-
like that. But
And I remember watching it, and like you said, Austin, the environments are very similar in just the style and the way it's drawn. But a lot of the characters do not look the same.
No, not
There's
the
a
faces.
style.
but
There's a
there's
style. They're a little more eccentric than like that little girl that's in Code Hunters looks a lot like Tiny Tina.
yes, I think
And,
the
like-
stylization is the key.
Yeah.
I honestly, no offense, like to the Code Hunters guy, that's really cool. I'm glad you did that on your own. It's an incredible art style, and obviously, if it is the case, you've innovated a generation of fucking art style. But like, also, Borderlands just did it good.
But
Well,
the problem
we'll
is...
get to the
That's
problem.
essentially, that's the thing about
So the
these
film-
sort of...
You are correct in saying
Yeah.
that, however...
However, the film was animated by a man named Ben Hibben with help from MTV Asia. It
Yeah,
was
I
used
saw
as
an
the intro
MTV
for the
logo,
MTV Movie Awards in Asia.
It's fucking weird.
And features many things that look very similar.
That makes sense.
You
why
know
it's
what
so
it's very
fragmented now.
reminiscent
Yeah.
to? And even like thinking about that,
like
like
6
as the
minutes
link
long?
between like Borderlands and the Gorillaz music
Oh,
video.
90
Yes.
long.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
very Gorillaz.
Oh, yeah. This did come out of that.
Yeah, but this caused some controversy, and when approached for comment, Pitchford said, I would like to thank news sites who chose to share the awesome work in Code Hunters with their readers. It's great content, and one can no doubt imagine that a number of artists and designers at Gearbox were inspired and influenced by it. It was inspiring to me when The Incredibles was clearly a big source of influence for titles like Battlefield Heroes and Team Fortress 2 and other amazing games and media.
That's true.
Perhaps with more attention from game news sites and other sources, Code Hunters can be more respected and honored for the innovation and leadership in CG as well. Maybe I'm too optimistic to believe that Code Hunters can get as much attention as Pixar, but due respect I believe they deserve. But with the help of gaming news sites and others who care about great content, maybe more people can notice and recognize it and perhaps be inspired by it.
He was much more articulate back then.
Yeah, first of all, hey,
Wait.
what a dick, but
Wait.
also so true. Like, unfortunately, like, he is a dickhead, but it's like, yes,
Yeah.
it should get the praise it deserves, and also it's like, you just took an art style that exists and just did it with your game. Are we not supposed to be inspired by things,
Yeah,
or
'cause-
is it?
because that-
what's the line between direct
Hold
theft?
on.
and
Because that,
Can you
stealing?
just-
that happens in this stuff all the
Alright.
time. Like, they don't own that.
Yes. Okay.
You know,
But
there's
here's
cell
the
shading.
thing.
The problem. Ben Hibben, when contacted about this exact controversy, in an interview with a guy named, I'm going to get this wrong, probably Mark Seb, maybe? I don't know, CEB.
Yeah.
For the website Gather Your Party, here's the interview. I'm going to read it in full. Well, not in full, but the clip from it. Did anyone from Gearbox or 2K Games contact you before the release of Borderlands? That was the interviewer. Ben. I was contacted by Gearbox prior to the redesign of the game in 2008. They asked me if I would be interested in doing some design and some cutscenes for them. We exchanged a few emails, but the project didn't materialize in the end. I didn't think much of it at the time until I saw the final game. Mark, how do you feel when you saw what clearly looks like your ideas and design styles being used in the game after they said the project that you would have been worked on was being scrapped? Ben, to be absolutely clear, I have never created or designed anything for Gearbox or Borderlands. Gearbox saw my work and decided to reproduce it, make it their own, without my help or my consent. The hardest part for me when this happened was understanding why they wouldn't ask me directly. We were already talking about doing work together. It just made no sense. Mark, I know it's been a long time since then, but Gearbox is still making Borderlands, and it seems there's plans to continue the series, all while continuing to use an art style that's been credited to Ben Martell as an 11th hour stroke of genius. How do you feel about it now? Ben, I always think of the talented team of artists working in Gearbox who could have created something original and bespoke instead of copying someone else's short film, and I feel bad for them.
Well, that's the thing, is what happened
stand corrected.
Yeah, what happened because of this...
I didn't know he was
and like
reached
you
out
said,
to. That's different.
It was an 11th hour style change. That part isn't untrue.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
it was so bad and disruptive that the lead artist on it left the industry altogether
Yes.
after
Wait,
this
really?
happened.
The lead art designer for the original Borderlands before it was
Who had
changed got fed up and just quit the industry after they changed her art style.
Holy
And
shit.
it's like, part of me is like, I get they needed their purple cow. We're not wrong about that. That's not... The style to Borderlands was what invited them to be able to pump up the humor and the personality
That's
in
100%
Borderlands
true,
2.
yeah.
No, I
It was-
think it was what clicked.
'Cause
I
that's what-
think
yeah,
without that
exactly.
style,
It made that appealing
we
to me, for sure.
Without that change, there is no Borderlands 3 next week.
Right,
There's no
exactly.
episode
we would
right
not,
now.
we
Yeah.
would
There's
not
no
be
episode
recording
now.
this if it wasn't for that 11th hour stroke of genius. with
However,
air
given that
quotes.
That's a very
information,
good point,
they
yeah.
could have brought the dude in, or at the very least said, "We're going to be inspired by your art style. This is based off of a short film we saw." Somehow give some credit
Put
to
it
the
in
guy.
the credits.
Put in the credits.
Yeah.
So here's the thing.
Paying is probably...
I said this last night when we were watching it. It's not like they wholesale lifted.
Absolutely
It's
not.
not.
They were
No.
inspired by.
Yeah.
The psychos were already in the game. All of the stuff that gives
Exactly.
Borderlands the personality that it has was in the game. The characters were in the game.
Yeah.
The enemies were in the game. The
and
world was in the
there's
game.
no biting humor in that short or anything like that.
No, and that short is a lot more drab and a little
Yeah.
more boring than Borderlands.
Precisely,
Chris even
that's
made a
what I said.
comment when we
Borderlands
were
did it
watching
better.
it.
Yeah, I mean,
He
it's
was
here,
like-
it's here to present a
he was
fucking
like-
award show, not
Yeah. Chris was like, I'm glad Borderlands didn't steal this
lore of a
outright
video
because
game.
this is kind of boring when he was watching the short.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
We just like looked at each other like,
I
ugh.
kind of agree, but like the thing is, like
That Gorillaz
maybe credit the
comparison
guy
is
if he
all
was
I'm
that
thinking
much of
about
an
now.
inspiration. But the Borderlands artists didn't just steal somebody else's work and take credit for it. They did a lot of work. There's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff in Borderlands
Absolutely.
that is them.
Yeah.
This inspiration just pushed it over the edge enough to
That's
have
what I'm
enough
saying.
personality to stick
I
out.
think
That's it.
this short film and Borderlands both existed on their own and had their own life and their own feeling. And Borderlands had all the things that make it great already. I
Yeah.
think that they just literally took the skin, fit perfectly.
The purple
and they
cow
just-
metaphor. The purple cow metaphor is exactly correct in this case because
It's a
like,
literal paint job.
It is.
That- but it
is.
fit
It's
the
difference-
personality.
It's the difference between a paint job
Yeah.
and lighting.
And,
like,
and cell shading graphics have been approached in video games before, but not to the degree that this was.
No, what's
Borderlands didn't
that
look
fucking
cool
old
before.
PlayStation game?
I mean,
the
I
shooter?
think I referenced Killer 7.
Killer 7?
13, I think is the one you're thinking
13,
of.
yeah.
Which I
13
loved
had
both those games a
cel-shaded
lot. I think
graphics,
13
yeah.
is getting remade or something.
cool. I like to
yeah,
look back
it's,
at that.
that was that comic book style. Was,
Yeah.
But yeah,
really fucking
like
cool.
I said, like Borderlands 1, yeah, it had the same sort of like witticism almost, but it was more boring, more serious.
Yeah.
And then Borderlands 2, they just fucking exploded it.
Yeah, that's when
they
they're
were
like, let's make this
go-
playful and stuff like that, yeah.
You know, like we kind of got him in. The cell shading is giving us this edge to be a little like, as Austin said, wacky. Like to sort of go outside of what the normal realm
Yeah.
of serious,
I mean,
quote
I remember
unquote, video
that's what
gaming is.
made that game very much like on my radar, where I was like, man, this kind of looks like Jet Set Radio or something,
Well,
but it's
I'll
a
be-
shooter. I love shooters. Like that's
So
Yeah.
I'm not like I have never played an FPS before I played Borderlands 2, and the only reason was I saw like somebody else playing it, and I saw the animation for the like pick up all ammo when you open a chest.
Oh, yeah,
I just
yeah.
like watched him
the thing, the case open up and spray. Yeah, it's cool.
I watched him open just like a doll ammo chest, and then he held X, and all of the ammo flew to you, and I was like, "Fuck, I gotta play this game."
Neat.
Yeah.
Never had played an FPS before in my life. This is how I learned how to control video games.
Yeah.
Like,
Also, sidebar: Scanner Darkly also came out in 2006.
That was rotoscoped. That
It came out in
wasn't
2006, but
It's in.
still, it
It's
is a very
gorgeous. Oh, yeah.
hard-lined, dark edge,
Thick
filled
outlines,
in with
yeah.
matte colors, and it's like
That's a link letter.
Yeah, the shading is like I don't know the exact word for it, but it's almost like a geometric shading with hard lines, which is pretty much right there on the edge of
But
cell shading art.
Yeah.
Here's the
it's a
thing.
comic art style. It's an inked in
It's very
art style.
it's all very
Here's the
comic
thing.
book
We talk a
inspired.
lot about how Borderlands has heavily inspired a lot of games today.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for people out there to know this story because this guy does deserve his credit. But the
Ben
arts,
Hibbard, right?
Ben Hibbon.
Yeah, Hibbon.
The
Okay,
arts-
sorry, not the
guy
Death
from
Cab.
Death Cab for Cutie.
Yeah, I keep getting it mixed up too, and I don't even like that.
The guy who did this deserves his credit, but at the same time, the thing that inspired everybody from Borderlands, the thing that people are ripping wholesale from Borderlands nowadays, is
the
not
loot
the
shoot
art.
RPG.
It's,
Right,
it's the
yeah.
gameplay mechanics, the systems,
It's like the minute to
and the
minute.
attitude.
As I-
Oh, the
all of
attitude.
which was
yeah.
As I made my Destiny joke earlier,
Yeah.
of, him looking around the corner.
100% Gearbox.
yeah.
And
It
Gearbox
made everything wacky.
And the thing I love about Borderlands is that Gearbox takes that attitude and they nail it.
Mm-hmm.
It can feel forced at times,
And it is cheesy sometimes.
and it is cheesy
Oh,
sometimes.
you mean the
it's
epitome
good.
of it being forced, the character claptrap?
I think, but even so, like I think it's undeniable.
works.
I think it's undeniable
It
that
does.
even things like Overwatch like wouldn't even maybe have its same sort of character,
Yes.
sort of like.
Without
Overwatch
Battleborn,
is
you're
very
right.
good.
Battleborn did. It's,
We'll get to Battleborn next week. I got some stuff to say about Battleborn,
yeah,
but
me too.
that personality
Yeah.
came from a very talented cast of writers, including Pitchford and his wife,
Yeah.
who both wrote the game.
I didn't know she contributed.
Yes,
I knew he did. Okay.
as well
Did you know
as
that she dresses him? Because I found that out
well,
today.
yeah. Let's just hold on.
Stop giving him Hawaiian shirts.
as well Paisley shirts,
Pa-
as well as
He-
longtime Gearbox employees. One I want to single out in particular, Mikey Newman.
Yeah, 'cause we'll get
who
into
has
him
a
later as well.
Great YouTube series if you're into movies at all, called Movies with Mikey. He is no longer an employee at Gearbox, but he was since the very early days of like Brothers in Arms. He wrote the Brothers in Arms games as well.
Okay.
And all of them also did. Well, I don't know about Pitchford's wife, but Randy Pitchford and Mikey Newman, both very iconic voices in the game. Pitchford voices Crazy Earl.
Yeah.
And Mikey Newman voiced Scooter.
Oh,
Nice.
rip.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
But
I love Scooter.
yeah, this controversy came up after the game.
What you want?
Randy Pitchford's wife is named Kristen Pitchford. Christy Pitchford, by
Christy
the way.
Pitchford. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to do
No,
that.
No,
it's good,
she's
yeah.
a man's wife. Jesus.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I thought I
No,
wrote her name
I knew
down.
it wasn't intentional, and he's obviously
it's
way
not
more
you.
famous than
it's,
she is.
It's 50,000 years of society. So
Yeah, well, that's why I thought to look it up. It's like Randy and Christy, yeah,
Yes.
Christy Pitchford.
Christy Pitchford.
yes, thank
But
you.
despite
we're-
this small controversy, the game, obviously, as we know now, was a hit.
Hell yeah. I know people that bought Xboxes and like subscriptions to Live to play this game.
Unfortunately, I wasn't a poser and I was already playing. But,
No, me too. yeah.
Well, yeah, this was 2 years after Modern Warfare. This was the same year as Modern Warfare 2.
Yes.
So
Yeah, oh, that would make sense. That was
yeah.
probably a part of it.
Gearbox,
I think I said that on the Call of Duty episode.
more so publisher 2K, and most importantly, fans were absolutely thrilled
Yeah.
with Borderlands. The game sold around 3 to 4 million copies.
For new IP, that's
very good.
yeah, pretty significant.
Saw that cell shading.
That's true.
This led to a bunch of DLC.
Some better than others.
that's
The
still
DLC
one that
for one
Knox,
was-
dude, people still fucking talk about the General Knox's
Really?
armory. in that
gaming
DLC.
is kind of. I just thought about something. We can get into it later. I just want to say that just for the podcast, if you want to have a little thought on your own, we'll talk about this more. Gaming is kind of still very word of mouth. Is
Yeah.
pretty,
Oh, of course.
as far as art mediums go. But
Yeah.
we can move on.
Think about
we
Pokemon Go
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Fortnite and
We
everything,
can
yeah.
talk about that's more of a cool philosophical conversation.
But more so than the DLC, this led to a sequel. And it led to a sequel pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I have so many hours.
There wasn't merchandise until the sequel.
Yes.
Oh,
And
let's
that
go get some
will
Borderlands merchandise.
We'll get into that. I already have a Claptrap Pod file.
Yeah, the worst item of Borderlands merchandise that you could.
Oh no, there's
own.
way dumber shit out there. I think they got ice cubes that are probably branded for
Yeah,
like.
Claptrap ice cubes.
Dude, fucking ice machine. I want claptrap
But-
ice cubes and everything.
Borderlands 2 was announced on August 2nd, 2011, a little under 2 years after the first game came out. There were no major art style changes this time. There was just more color added. It was the same engine, Unreal, same engine that all of their games run on.
Yeah.
But I want to highlight somebody who I think changed Borderlands from just another sequel into one of my favorite games of all time and sort of define...
Aside from Empire Strikes Back, maybe the best sequel of all time.
Yes. And that person is a man by the name of Anthony Birch, who
Yeah.
was announced as the writer for Borderlands 2 the day after it was announced. He is famous for a series of online videos with his sister,
Ashley Birch.
Ashley Birch.
Angel.
Also,
called
yeah, also
Hey
incredible.
Ash, what you playin'? His sister, yeah, voice of Tiny Tina, also the voice of Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn.
Chloe.
Great voice actor. Chloe from Life is Strange. And yeah, he took that personality thing that I've been talking about and ratcheted it up to 11. And
Absolutely.
and I don't want to credit him alone, but I think he was like more so a writer. Like it was a collaborative effort with one. Like talking to Melanie about this last night, like he took the characters from one who kind of lacked personality and gave them personality in two.
Yes.
Yeah,
They
via
returned-
secondary storytelling.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, like he
Their
is-
their characters way more so
Yes.
beyond their game.
And now we're in 3, and that sort of mentality has been transferred over.
those characters are still like,
Exactly.
Yeah,
All
and
the
I-
characters
like-
that you met in 1, 2, even a couple pre-sequel, even
Tales.
some Tales.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fuck yeah.
Like it's just like I don't know, that feeling of everybody's coming home. I can't help but feel that.
If there's any proof that Borderlands has inspired and has been unique, it's that I officially resent Borderlands because I've seen it too much, and it's not that I've
Sorry.
seen it too much; it's that people have mimicked it too much.
Yeah.
Like to the point where I'm like, ugh, this is antiquated. Wait, no, this is the original.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's
I completely get that.
We're gonna,
Okay. But yeah, on actual development, not much story here. The game came out. Phenomenal. One of my favorite games of all time. I know it's one of Melanie's
Fucking
favorite games of all
beautiful.
time.
Oh, absolutely. It is my favorite game of all time, no doubt.
But it wouldn't be a Gearbox release without some controversy. So let's get into that.
Yay!
In an interview about Gage the Necromancer, one of the characters, lead designer John Hemingway said that about the character, the design team was looking at the concept art and thought, you know what? This is actually the cutest character we've ever had. I want to make, for lack of a better term, the girlfriend skill tree. This is, I love Borderlands and I want to share it with someone, but they suck at first-person shooters. Can we make a skill tree that actually allows them to understand the game and play? That's what our attempt was with the Best Friends Forever skill tree, which is Gage's skill
This
tree.
guy seems
And
like a
do you-
total dipshit.
Let me make a point about. I've played as all of the characters except the Psycho.
You have
in
played more
Borderlands 2.
Borderlands than the three of us combined.
Yeah,
and then
no,
some.
By far, and I've beaten every single aspect of that game. So I'm also that probably
Yeah,
win.
and you know how many times I've done that?
Yes.
But like,
I've beaten the game 3 times.
Yeah,
Gage?
wait, fuck this quote. I need the boyfriend skill tree.
Yeah,
I'm
right?
not-
I
am
need the idiot
so-
skill tree.
No, what I want to say about Gage as a character is that she is OP from the get, and that consensus is shared by the
So-
Borderlands community.
so
People
she-
who still stream
She's
Borderlands
who
2.
I played. I thought the Necromancer was a DLC character.
She is a
It is.
DLC
She was a
character.
day 1 DLC character.
Okay.
It was like
I
a
don't know.
pre-order
I didn't
bonus.
play it when it came out.
She was a pre-order bonus, but you could also buy her.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, so the 2 DLCs characters there are, well, Borderlands 1 is not that interesting in
Yeah.
the way of its playable characters and action skills. With Borderlands 2...
Did they ever add other characters besides the 4 in Borderlands 1?
No, there were no DLC
Okay.
characters, and that's become something that it's expected of a Borderlands game. We'll talk about the pre-sequel later.
Yeah.
There
with
were 6 in Borderlands 2, right?
There were 4 originally, which
4
was
originally.
the Siren, Maya, who I played as, and that's my
Same.
main. I'm very, very good with Maya.
This is pre-sequel, right?
No,
No,
this
that's
is
two.
Borderlands
Oh, this is
2.
two.
We'll
Okay,
talk
sorry,
about,
sorry. Yeah.
I'm doing the dev on
Okay.
2.
Zero.
So. Zero,
Yes, Zero.
who is sniper-based deception character. Axton, who
invisible.
has a turret, and like his skill trees are cool because it's a lot of like mech, a lot of like stuff that can draw
Yeah,
aggro
no,
and
That's
stuff
my
that can.
shit. Because
Yeah.
he had, you can get the magnet mixed with the like the nuke thing, and you just throw your turrets on the wall, and then when
Yeah.
they blow up, they fucking
Yeah.
nuke.
And then the fourth one is the Gunzerker, who is definitively people who play long game, who max out characters and do raid bosses and stuff like that. All the streamers have a Gunzerker character.
Yeah.
His name is Salvador, and he's definitively the most powerful Vault Hunter, but not powerful in an overpowered way like Gage is, where she just can just spray and pray for basically the whole game.
And spawn
once
a thing that fights.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
for
And
you.
Death
Yeah.
Trap is super
So you
OP
can play
from
with your
like
girlfriend.
level
Yeah.
5.
So then,
So
so naturally,
condescending.
this,
And
yeah,
then
exactly.
creep,
So
right?
naturally, this
And
is
then that's really condescending, but like
well, they're
Gage
biting
is-
the hand that feeds them. Like half
Yeah.
of their audience is.
And the Psycho is what you're saying.
this the last one
Oh,
is
yeah, I
the,
never
Psycho,
played the Psycho.
which was cool because I just really liked that concept, but I never played it as him.
I beat the game as Krieg.
That's awesome. I don't know anybody who's beat the game as
It was
Krieg.
hard.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah, I
like
beat it a 0. That was hard.
that was a more gimmicky
Yes.
character than anything else.
I beat it on the Vita too. Talk about hard.
Jesus
Wait, you beat it on the
Christ.
Vita?
Uh-huh.
I played that version when you bought it. That's
It was
But-
not good.
If we're gonna talk about, in terms of damage output and staying alive.
No, actually, we're not
it's
going to talk
totally-
about that. This is it. Hot button's over. All right, good night, guys. We'll see you later.
I chose the Necromancer because I can't
No,
fucking multitask
I
at
beat
all.
the game as Gage too. The only thing is that the Gunzerker is powerful in the way that it takes a lot of like skill and different loadouts to maximize his power.
Okay.
With Gage, you're like that from the get-go.
Yeah. The woman class, according to this guy.
So, it also wouldn't be a controversy without Randy Pitchford responding. And
Hold on, let me butt in and.
his response: "There is no universe where Hemingway is a sexist. All the women at Gearbox would beat his and anyone else's ass." And then follow-up tweet: "I'm sure Hemingway is getting noogied right now, but not his fault. A personal anecdote has been twisted and dogpiled on by sensationalists. Fun."
It's very Donald Trump like.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
We made that comparison
Sad.
last night too.
sad, fun.
Where it's just like, it's like you have the power in your hands. Just stop
Yeah.
tweeting at people. And then like the thing with that response also too is it's the equivalent of like, no, I'm not racist. I have a black friend. Like,
I know
Yeah,
women.
it's not hard for you to go back and admit you were wrong and make changes. I didn't
Evidently
read
it
too
is.
much into the CD Projekt Red thing, but from the outside, it seems like they were like, "Oh, we fucked up. Here's a change. We're sorry." Is that how that went, or is that a bigger issue?
I mean, that's
there?
not good enough for people either anymore.
Ah,
so.
fair enough. Yeah.
yeah.
but I think like, I mean, what would the right way to handle that be? Like, I didn't mean it like that, or like, even that seems disingenuous.
Just
Well,
imagine
duh,
Randy-
because the only
Randy
reason
comes
they
out, it's like,
did
this,
it
this
is-
guy's a total idiot. Let me.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
right?
It's like, look, here's how you solve that. You come out and go,
My wife will beat you at Borderlands.
that could work. And you just come out and go like, hey, like, we fucked up.
That wasn't
Like,
cool to say,
This
yeah.
was very, just absolutely oblivious to what's going on.
There's no
Some off-the-cuff
problem to being
interview.
like, we designed a character with a skill tree for people
For
who are less
casual
experienced. Yeah,
players.
for
Oh, yeah,
casual
exactly.
players.
That's- yeah.
But you don't have to
Your
say
girlfriend.
you don't have to say that all women are casual players and all men are hardcore because it's not how it works at all.
You know
yeah.
who's a casual Borderlands player that played the Necromancer fucking class? Me.
You know
Like-
who's not a casual player
Oh,
who
wait, so
still
never-
played the Necromancer
Never
class
mind.
and enjoyed it?
Yeah.
Randy
It's a
is kind of a
fucking-
gamer girlfriend,
it's a
so
fun
maybe this
class.
doesn't work out.
God
I
damn
just
it.
mean like, and here's the thing, like, it's not about like, oh well, I'm better at Borderlands than any of the boys.
A
'Cause, like,
cooperative
I
game.
know I am. I don't have to like.
So it is about that.
No, but it's just like it's hard for me to reconcile with a lot of these controversies just because it's like, fuck. I
mean,
you
it's not
don't
even-
care about me.
It's not even mechanically here because they're also referencing the visual design of the character by being
Yeah.
like, look
She's
how
adorable.
cute this character is.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
is.
but
But
boys
So
can
there's-
like cute things.
There's a lot of cute things in Borderlands.
All three of you love cute things.
If my
I
Sunset
hate 'em.
Overdrive character
I
is
love
any evidence of that,
Your Sunset Overdrive character is the cutest.
But again, despite this little controversy, this little hiccup, Borderlands 2 would go on to be even more successful than 1,
Yes.
leading to some of the best story DLC for any game ever made, I contend.
Still
Tiny
reference.
Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep is the best single DLC thing ever released.
Dude, I jack off to that DLC.
Whoa,
It's so
okay.
good. Oh, sorry, I'm a woman. That joke
And,
makes
like-
you uncomfortable.
And like, wow, called out. I told Randy this story before. I thought Borderlands 1 was okay. I know you didn't really play a ton of the first one.
I
not
played the
missing out.
remaster and I bought it. It was one of those things where it's like, it's all the DLC for $20. I'm gonna buy it.
I
I'm
like
gonna play it
Borderlands
casually.
1
You're
just
not missing
fine.
out on anything in retrospect.
I
Yeah.
know the
2
story.
is superior in every way.
2
Absolutely.
is phenomenal.
It's where
And
Borderlands
I almost-
formed its identity,
I almost
I would
didn't
say.
buy it. My roommate in college at the time got a new graphics card, which came with Borderlands 2, and he's like, I don't want this. And I was like, fine, I'll play it. And then I
Fucking
fell
loser.
in love.
Yeah, of course.
And we obviously know where the franchise went from there, but we got Telltale made a spin-off game, Tales from the Borderlands, which is one of the best
love it so
pieces
much.
of story in video game
It's
history.
some of the best writing I've ever seen
Yes.
in the field. It's incredible. It's my personal favorite Borderlands release, which is
Yeah.
I know maybe a controversial opinion just because of the gameplay is so different
Yeah.
of a different thing, but it's incredible.
Personally.
And then a third game made in part by Gearbox and in part by a 2K
Yeah.
satellite studio called Borderlands, the prequel. And Melanie's going to talk about that. But first, I just want to highlight all 3 of these things, the DLCs that I love, Tales from the Borderlands and Borderlands prequel, all written by Anthony Birch.
Man. So before you get into it, real quick, who was the other developer? You said this is a partnership
2K
between.
I'll tell you.
Australia.
I'll talk about it.
What else were they known?
We'll get to it.
She'll talk about it. I'll look it up.
Okay.
So, I am glad that I got to, because Austin, you said you did not play much of the pre-sequel.
I beat it.
Oh,
He did,
okay.
yeah. I didn't finish it.
I beat it in that I got through the story and was like, yep, that's good. Like, I didn't
So,
beat it like I did with Borderlands.
Okay.
2.
so do you guys know how I play Borderlands 2 now?
Yeah.
Or I don't have to ask.
I've seen you play it. Yeah.
You guys have watched me play it, like, anyway.
Yeah.
So I play Borderlands 2 now as just my, like, default game a lot of the times.
You play Borderlands 2 the way I play Tetris.
Yeah, exactly. That's my fucking game,
Yeah.
dude. Like, that's the thing.
I need to reach my
Yeah.
get to my happy place.
Right. And so Borderlands 2 I started playing, I think it was, when did the pre-sequel came out in 2014.
Yeah, which was after the new consoles were already out, but initially it was only on the old stuff. Yeah.
I got that. Don't worry.
Okay.
Don't worry. I got it.
That was a
all,
very
Randy.
odd thing.
I
Okay,
am
all right.
ready. I am so ready. But the pre-sequel was the first game I ever bought and played at launch.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the pre-sequel holds a lot to my heart, and I played the pre-sequel like I play Borderlands 2 now
Mm-hmm.
for 2 years. And then I went back to 2 and I was like, oh god, this game's infinitely better in every way.
Did the pre-sequel have DLC and stuff too?
Yes, and I will get into that.
Okay. I wasn't sure if they supported that game.
I have a very comprehensive bullet note outline over here, along with a drawing of Claptrap.
I saw
saying
that.
I'm
It's
the
cute.
worst.
Yeah.
So
Hold on, sidebar. I played Claptrap in the pre-sequel.
So did I,
Okay.
for one level.
I didn't want to get the oxygen fucking stuff. I like the
That's- no, and that's
that was
exactly-
why I played it as him.
Genuinely, that is why I played as Claptrap too, because I
Yeah.
kept getting tired
The
of the
RNG,
fucking
all this
O2
bullshit.
kits.
Continue on. Sorry.
So, the pre-sequel was, story-wise, it takes place between Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2.
Yes.
And it includes,
It's a cute name.
it includes our, all the characters we know. Moxie, Handsome Jack, Roland and Lilith are on the moon. It takes place on Pandora's moon, Elpis. It was developed by 2K Australia, so the moon is basically treated as, like, Australia, sort
Australia
of
moon.
like Pandora's Australia, where it's
Okay.
just like weird outback, like it's cool,
Yeah.
like Bushwick, like all that kind of like weird Australian stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm a really huge fan of like Australian humor in general, so I really
Sure.
loved it at the time because of that. So Borderlands the pre-sequel was published by 2K and developed by 2K Australia with quote unquote assistance from Gearbox.
To cut in here,
What does that mean?
now that I've looked it up, 2K Australia was formerly 2K Irrational.
Yeah, who made fucking Bioshock Infinite?
They helped make.
Whoa!
Hold on.
That's why they have them on
They
the
helped,
pre-sequel.
Holy shit.
they helped make Bioshock 1 and Bioshock 2, and then later became 2K Marin.
Oh, 2K Marin.
And made the Bureau XCOM Declassified,
Yes.
which was not a great
One of
game.
the most
This is
forgotten.
not
Then they
good.
helped make Bioshock Infinite, they helped make Bioshock Infinite, and they also made Bureau XCOM Declassified in the same year, and then they made Borderlands the pre-sequel, and then they were shut down. So,
Oh, they're gone.
yes, they're gone.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
2015 it says. Shut
Okay.
down.
All right.
So the pre-sequel comes out October 2014
Yeah.
on previous gen consoles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you being very upset at the time,
year
Austin. About
I was
yeah.
very
No,
upset.
I know.
Yeah.
I looked all of this up earlier because this was, like I said, the first time I bought a game at launch. So I bought it at launch on an Xbox 360.
This
And
is
then-
before backwards compatible shit too. So I
Yeah.
remember
And so the problem I have with that is like it's released October 2014 on previous gen, and it is, it's good. You can buy the season pass, which promises story DLC, 2 new characters,
Okay.
and headhunter packs like there were in
DLC
Borderlands
on
2.
an old console. Like I mean,
Spoiler alert! No, spoiler alert! That season pass was a fucking scam
Oh.
because
The studio got shut down like a year after the game
Oh,
came out.
Exactly.
holy shit! So they didn't even finish what they were doing.
so.
Yeah.
I'll get into the DLC in a
Okay,
minute.
sorry. I knew they put out quotes being like, "Yeah, we're sticking to old generation consoles, but we have a plan," and
Yeah.
it was like,
Oh yeah. So October 2014, Borderlands the pre-sequel comes out. It's the price of a new game. You can buy the
It
season
is.
pass or whatever. And then the problem with that is that in March 2015, like 6 months later, the Handsome Collection is released on next gen.
yeah, right.
Which
I was-
includes the pre-sequel.
It
I
does.
was very
So,
upset about
The
that.
Handsome Collection is Borderlands 2, Borderlands the pre-sequel, and all the DLCs and season pass for both.
For $60.
So that's $60,
Yeah.
and that's a good deal.
It is, yeah.
But for people who are like
Just invested
diehard
in all the-
fans like I am,
Yeah.
who just bought the $60 version for Xbox 360,
And the season pass on top of that.
I think you fell. Did you
Yeah.
fall for that too?
No, I bought Portal.
sorry,
I
I'm
was
not
like,
as smart as
I
Austin.
was like, no, hold on. I was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy the pre-sequel on PC because I'm not breaking out my Xbox 360 anymore.
Yeah.
And then I didn't buy the Borderlands 2 season pass. I bought them all on a Steam sale and played them later,
Okay.
which was a mistake because they were phenomenal. But
All of them are very good.
but I decided to do that again with Borderlands the pre-sequel, and then I ended up not liking the game all that much, so I ended up not ever playing the DLC.
Okay.
So basically, Borderlands the pre-sequel it looks and feels like a reskin of Borderlands 2, and a lot
Yeah.
of the criticism of it is why wasn't it just an add-on? Like it should have just been an add-on because it's like you're playing the same game. And for people like me who couldn't really get into games and still have a lot of trouble, who already was just like in love with Borderlands 2, it was exactly what I needed.
But
And
they had to take time to ruin the mystery of Handsome Jack.
Yeah, watching, I know that you said that, all right, cool, done. I replayed that story so many times, and watching his descent into madness is very satisfying because this is a little deep, so you can cut this out, but I am very worried constantly about, like, bad people. Like, why do they act that way? And so this explanation of, like, look at what happened, not in a way that makes him sympathetic, in
Yeah,
a way
no,
that
I
it was
agree.
like, yeah, no, he still sucks and he shouldn't have reacted
That's kind of
that
what
way,
me and Austin talk
but
about with
I
the Joker
get it.
movie coming up. Yeah, like you should play Tales from the Borderlands at some point, just because that game has
Which apparently
some of the most.
reviewed very well.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because that game has some of the most unexpected pathos.
Oh, no,
like,
I meant
of-
the Joker movie reviewed
Oh
very
yeah, no,
well.
the Joker movie is reviewing very well. Yeah, I want to see
But
it.
so
but-
I have basically about
Did you play the DLC as well?
I played everything
Okay.
all the time. So the
Very many times. I played all.
Very time.
So I would like to point out the pros of Borderlands the pre-sequel, despite it being so genuinely similar to Borderlands 2. There were new mechanics. There were new jumping mechanics with the O2 kits. You could do boosted jumps.
the low grav shit.
The characters were fun to play. I played more characters in the pre-sequel immediately. I played as all of them. The first one I played, the characters...
Was Claptrap last? You could tell me.
Claptrap was last.
I only ever played that game as Claptrap.
Oh really? Okay.
the
So
only
you do that with
Oh,
me.
why? That game is so much better when you play as someone who doesn't suck.
I only played it as Claptrap as well.
Well,
Jesus,
to get
guys!
into it, the reason I didn't like Borderlands, I actually liked the gameplay of it because it plays a lot more like 2, and the characters were cool. The story felt, to me, seeing I did not need to see Handsome Jack's descent into madness. I liked it better in
When it
my
was more
head
vague
than
or
what
just-
they wrote down.
That's fair.
And that game, shockingly enough, very similar to Bioshock 2, who the same studio now we know that
what?
works on,
Bioshock 2.
where it's just like the gameplay was better. It was an iteration, and it was
Technically,
very
yeah.
similar, but it was still a little bit better. They added some quality of life stuff. But at the end of the day, the story just fleshed out something from the original game that I felt didn't need fleshing out.
Sure.
You said it like you feel like it was unsaid and it could have said
It was
stayed.
unnecessary to tell that story.
So I can see that point of view, but as someone who I don't know, I just think that
But
it hit
fuck
me.
you.
It hit me all at the right time, where it was like I was just getting into video games and just understanding the mechanics of a first-person shooter. Like I learned FPS through
Sure.
Borderlands because I liked the art and the humor so much that I was like, "There's no fucking way I'm not playing this game." Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna figure it out in my stupid peanut brain and just like get it together and play the game. So to sum it up a little bit, like the positive things about Borderlands the pre-sequel were the
name.
Yeah, it's cute. I mean, like
The name is funny.
it's cool.
That
Like,
is a great name.
It is, yeah.
in the pre-sequel with like the addition of the cryo element and all of the action skills and
Lost
trees
Planet.
are fucking cool. Like in Borderlands 2, there are a couple characters where I'm like, yeah, I've played as them, but I wouldn't go through.
Yeah.
But with the pre-sequel, I played through as every character. I
The
beat it
characters
as
were
every
cool.
character. And I think that was a huge positive.
And Claptrap was great to play as.
Do you think
because
people thought it was like a diminishing returns thing?
you
maybe, or-
get to hear his internal monologue, which was the best part of the game.
That's fair.
just like
Break your
Control.
fucking laptop. Break this whole table.
There were a couple like smaller problems with it where like obviously people felt that it was just a lot of people claimed that it was just a cash grab because it was
And then
just
Destiny did the jumping better.
yeah. Well,
Thanks for your
The Titan
input.
jetpack. The Titan jetpack is pre-sequels jumping.
It is.
anyway, the major issue besides like sort of some maps and level design issues was the season pass.
Yeah.
They sold the season pass, marketing it as the season pass from Borderlands 2, which included 2 DLC characters to play as, 4 story DLCs, and headhunter packs,
Yeah.
which were just like smaller DLCs. And what you got with the Borderlands pre-sequel season pass before 2K Australia shut down was the 2 playable characters, which were good, 1 DLC, the Claptastic Voyage, where you go inside of Claptrap's mind, and it's fucking good. It is a
Claptastic
good,
Voyage.
fun DLC. The final boss, spoilers,
take your
you
word.
beat him, and then he just like reappears and is like, fuck you, which I know a lot of games do, but the way it was done, like I remember being in that boss fight, and I remember just the fucking fear I felt when he came back. But the issue was that there was only the 1 DLC and then a smaller Holodome pack, which was basically just a fight arena that you did like 5 rounds of, where you had to fight.
Yeah, I think the first game had something like that.
Yeah,
too.
they did. Badass Crater, Badass Arena. They do a lot of stuff like that, which is fun because that's conducive to that kind of game. But people paid thinking and being advertised that it was going to be like Borderlands 2's season pass, and then it was not. And people don't like that. They are mad.
Another controversy.
And then plus releasing the Handsome collection like 6 months later instead
Yeah.
of
It
just
was
like
a good middle finger.
Yeah, it was just like, fuck
But
you, pay again,
there's-
pay us.
There's a couple reasons as to why the pre-sequel was not handled by Gearbox themselves. The main reason being that 2K wanted more Borderlands, but Gearbox wasn't owned by 2K, and they had other obligations, which I will now get to.
Oh boy, did they ever!
And yeah, it was released for 360 because they're like, we're not going to upgrade the engine and
Yeah.
all this stuff. And also, Gearbox had spent the last, what would have been 2005 to 2012, 7 years on Borderlands, and they wanted a break,
Sure.
I think. And the pre-sequel is kind of evidence of that, where it's just like too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. You know?
It definitely shows that they were trying to just please 2K with it.
Yeah.
And like that doesn't make it a bad game, but it makes it it doesn't make it like it makes it not a good game. You know what I mean? Like that's a weird, vague way to put it.
It makes it an okay game in a phenomenal series, which is an issue.
Which is why when they announced 3, they released the DLC for Borderlands 2 instead of tacking it onto the pre-sequel.
That's true. Yeah, they did release new DLC for 2.
But there were 2 projects that had Gearbox occupied so that they couldn't focus on the pre-sequel.
Some of the greatest games to ever...
Number 1, Duke Nukem Forever.
1997.
Now, let me preface this by saying...
I don't have time to play with myself.
Duke Nukem Forever
could absolutely warrant its entire...
has such a troubled development history that if you go on Wikipedia, normally where there is a development tab for a game, it's just a link to an entire Wikipedia article.
Oh, that's how you know you're getting into the good shit.
Yeah.
But we're going to fast forward.
Which we're talking... Is that on our list of things to cover?
It is. I put it on there. I hate that game so fucking much.
So we'll be doing a future episode on that.
But we're going to cover Gearbox's part in that game.
Yeah.
For now, and then when we inevitably do that episode, this will come up again. But all I'm going to say is...
Oh, and then you're going to be like, listen to episode blah, blah, blah about Randy
It's
Pitchford.
true.
I do that a lot.
I'm a legacy now.
Randy Pitchford was able to save that game from becoming just a piece of gaming history.
It should have stayed
vaporware. But
no Half-Life 3, but we got Duke Nukem Forever.
The problem here is his quote on the matter, which I will now read.
Is that always the problem?
Yes. The dude's good at his job. He was able to business his way into saving a game that he held dear because he worked on the original Duke Nukem. So But here's his quote. I put it all together in a nice package and brought it to Christopher Hartman, 2K's president.
Nice package.
And told him what I'd done. I told him...
Hold on, I'm on the phone with the NBA.
I told him that I had leveraged my knowledge of a brand I'd worked on before and the trust that both Scott and George have in me, the 2 guys that founded 3D Realms, and the team has in me, and my own studio's credibility and expertise, along with our ability to ship games on all platforms. I brought all of this to Take-Two. Since Take-Two owns all the publishing rights to Duke Nukem, it's obvious that they want nothing more than for this game to be great. It's kind of serendipitous that my studio got strong enough to help out. I mean... We've been so fortunate. The success of Borderlands, our Brothers in Arms games, and the things we did in Half-Life. We've been so fortunate and successful enough to be in a position to help.
Help.
So that whole thing...
I can't tell if that sentence is articulated or it's just like Trumpian plus.
It could be read either way, because the whole thing is like, well, I mean, I left 3D Realms after Duke Nukem 3D came out, and they fell to shit, but my company took off, so I was able to save them.
Such a good company. You know what I mean?
That's kind of a running theme with Randy Pitchford, is him being just like, well, look at me. Look at what I did.
Well, that's the thing. Duke Nukem Forever totally seems like an amalgamation of his personality.
Well, exactly. You were saying like he held it dear to his heart. He held the IP.
Which I believe.
Yeah.
No, I believe it too, and I understand why he would want to be like...
There was a time where Duke Nukem was important.
I understand when you just think about him making the decision. It's like, I worked on this, I feel emotions about this, or whatever, and I would like to, bring it into this year.
I mean,
I would like to bring it back and help
That whole quote can be summed up with, like, it came out.
Yeah. But should it have?
No.
Well, and then
It
it's
was important, though. You remember in 3D when you'd shoot at the stripper stage full of the big cop people? That was like...
I mean, the thing about Duke Nukem Forever, and I'll make this quick, was that when Duke Nukem 3D came out, they added personality to a protagonist, and in a way that most shooters from that era did not feature. So, like, the thing about, like, Wolfenstein and 3D and, like, Doom are fucking great, but, like, those characters aren't really characters. Duke Nukem was fully voiced, for better or for worse, and, like, the environments were, like, fully interactive, and they had really wacky weapons, the things that they did for multiplayer. And then when they tried to modernize that, you're just like, oh, like, this does not work anymore. Like, this is just dumb and gross and
that's what I'm
terrible.
saying. It's like, if you think about just Randy Pitchford making that decision, of course he would want that.
Sure.
But did he not have, like, a team of people or anybody to be like, hey, this just isn't going to work the way you want it to?
I think it's a thing to be like...
because it's a matter of just making a video game. There's only one people who have done modernizing an arcade video game right, and it's Doom. They
yes.
just put their hand
is
on
the-
the pedal of cartoonizing almost arcade video games in the modern era, and it worked out. Like it really did. They took a concept that was just like, it was innovative for its time. You know, sorry, this is not a good podcast medium, but just like
Yeah.
and they turned that into like this fucking insane, wacky, fucking mind trip of a fucking DMB bass song turned into a fucking video game.
Yeah.
And I don't think Duke Nukem pushed the envelope enough to be that.
It's like, do you think? I think Giant Bomb proposed the question of, could Duke Nukem as a character and as a franchise get its 2016 Doom treatment in some way? And it's just like, it takes a writer and developers, like, it takes people smarter than us to figure that out. Because,
to be honest, I don't think so.
Maybe not.
I think the challenge is not even that Gearbox fumbled it. It's just that, like, they got into it and they were like, fuck, this ain't easy.
Yeah. Speaking of fumbles, Austin, take us to their next fucking rousing success.
God,
So
I
now
can't
we
wait.
move from Duke Nukem, and we're going to go back to earlier in the podcast when I mentioned the Aliens license being put into Gearbox.
At least they got back on track after this horse shit.
They did make a good Aliens game because they helped with that Aliens Infestation DS game. That was good.
Yeah.
Okay. But
I never played that.
It was all right.
yeah, like I said, it was announced in 2006, 2007-ish area that Sega had gotten the rights to Aliens, and then Gearbox was meant to make an Aliens game. The idea actually came from a chance encounter at a party between Gearbox creative director Brian Martell and Alien director Ridley Scott.
That's crazy.
The idea was to make a direct sequel to Aliens and make it an FPS.
Okay.
And thus, Alien Colonial Marines was born.
Wait, was Aliens...
Aliens is the sequel to Alien, the more action.
No. I meant, is the Alien Predator Marine game, was that prior to this? I thought
That was,
Yes, it
that was like a
was.
Jaguar.
That game was incredible.
Yeah, no, it's great, but that's
a first-person game.
it is, but that was much more based around like.
But this was to make a story game.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
that was very
Yeah.
arcadey.
That was very that was much more competitive
game, by the
multiplayer
way.
thing. Yeah,
Yes.
it was fucking great.
I think Randy's going to talk about the quality of the game itself when I'm done getting through this, but I'm just going to go right into the controversy of the whole thing because, oh boy, is it a doozy.
It's fun.
The game was announced by Sega in 2007, Aliens Colonial Marines, alongside an Aliens RPG made by Obsidian, which never came out.
No.
But at this time, both Obsidian and Gearbox had not even started on the projects when Sega announced it. Sega was that excited about owning the Aliens license.
Sega has a history of just announcing things before they should be announced.
Yeah, true.
Isn't there a Hot Button
If
episode about
Sega of
that?
America is involved, I don't know. If this is,
I don't know what the miscommunication here exactly was, but Sega, later on, a year later in 2008, went to Gearbox to see what progress they had made, and Gearbox was like, nothing, you gave us the license a year ago, and Sega canceled the game. But there's a lot more
what do
to
you
it
mean it's
than
not
that.
done?
Hold on.
It's been a year since we
Yeah.
announced it without
Bro,
talking
it takes
to
a
you.
month to draw a concept art. Relax.
Sega,
We got this chair that we.
Sega did not just cancel it because it wasn't done. Sega accused Gearbox of taking money from them
Woof.
to pay their employees and then shifting those employees that they paid to make Aliens over to Borderlands because Borderlands was more important to them.
Got that sweet alien.
Might
money.
be accurate.
Well,
I'm sure there was.
money.
I'm sure
That
there
should
was
take priority.
Start a band.
some there's some dark work there. I wouldn't say it was maliciously doing it, but they were probably like, well, we got the money. We can do Aliens. We don't need you. Let's get some people over here. You just happen to be getting paid by the package we got from Sega.
So Gearbox came up with a solution, which will go down as one of the worst solutions in gaming history. They convinced Sega to uncancel the game, but Gearbox was still focused on Borderlands and then later Borderlands 2. So they gave what they had in 2008, which was practically nothing, a couple of models, a couple of concept arts.
that chair I mentioned.
Yeah. And they outsourced it to another studio, Houston-based Timegate Studios,
No fucking clue.
to continue work on the game. Now, we're going to flash forward. None of this was known. None of this is made public. Timegate Studios name, not on the game. It just says Sega and Gearbox.
Okay, that's why I was confused. I'm like
Yeah.
literally Googling them right now. Cause
When the game came out, it came out.
they help make the
Gearbox-
expansions for Fear.
Yeah. Gearbox had outsourced the work, and Sega flat out denied this. And then, like a couple days later,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean. I was working at GameStop at the time. I remember this.
Yeah.
But go.
They did that Section 8 game.
Yeah, that's what they were working on at the time. This was immediately refuted by Randy Pitchford, who said Houston-based Timegate Studios worked on probably about 20 to 25% of the total time worked on Aliens. He said, if you take pre-production out of it, their efforts probably equivalent to ours. Now, it's not fair to take pre-production out of it, but that's to say a lot about how much horsepower those guys put into it.
What?
So he's saying that, they helped out. It wasn't just Gearbox, but it was mostly Gearbox.
Okay.
A former Gearbox employee then took to Reddit, and I am going to read this quote. It is almost a page of my script, so...
Yeah, don't
I
worry.
love when that
Get into
happens.
it.
Buckle up.
I'm
a
ready.
former Gearbox employee took to Reddit to say the following. Somehow, the schedules for Pecan, the code name for Aliens Marines internally, and Borderlands 2 managed to line up, and Gearbox realized that there was no fucking way that they could cert and ship 2 titles at the same time. Additionally, Campaign, which was being developed by Timegate, was extremely far behind, even as Pecan's beta deadline got closer and closer. In April or May, I can't remember which, Pecan was supposed to be in beta, but Gearbox instead came to an agreement with Sega that they would push the release date back one more time, buying Gearbox another 9 months extension. About 5 of those 9 months went into shipping Borderlands 2. In that time, Timegate had managed to scrap together 85% of the campaign, but once Borderlands 2 shipped and Gearbox turned its attention to Pecan, it became pretty apparent that what had been made was in a pretty horrid state. Campaign didn't make any sense, the boss fights weren't implemented, and the PS3 was over the memory limit and couldn't run. Gearbox was pretty unhappy with Timegate's work, and some of the campaign maps were just completely redesigned from scratch. There were some last-minute feature requests, most notably female Marines, and the general consensus among Gearbox devs was that there was no way this game was going to be good to ship. There just wasn't enough time. Considering that Sega was pretty close to taking legal action against Gearbox, asking for an extension was no longer an option. And so Pecan crash-landed through certification and shipping. Features that were planned were oversimplified, shoved in. A good example of this are the challenges, which are in incredibly illogical order. Issues that didn't cause 100% blockers were just ignored, with the exception of absolutely horrible game-breaking problems. This isn't because Gearbox didn't care, mind you. At a certain point, they couldn't risk changing anything that might cause them to fail certification or break any systems. And so the product you see is what you get.
Initially, what this sounds like is Gearbox obviously wanted to focus on Borderlands 2. They knew what this game was going to be. There's
Very lifeless.
There's no way you don't sit on that
Tedious
kind
game.
of game that you're developing and not understand what it's going to be. Just the immediate impact that the game made on all of us should be evidence enough that the people making it knew that Borderlands was going to be an incredibly successful game. They probably focused a lot of their time on it. I guarantee you, probably Pitchford or somebody involved at the top of Gearbox bit off more than they can chew.
Yeah.
They licensed it out to a company that was ill-prepared.
That's the thing. What do you show
and
to their...
they had to fucking bite the bullet
What do
for
you
it.
show to their parent company and shareholders, like Warner Brothers, so the Aliens license is... I don't know,
I will get to that.
Okay.
Continue, but I will get to that.
Okay.
No, it just
There's a level of expectation around this
It's also...
product that was not
And I
getting...
don't know if you're going to talk about this, but to this day, Randy Pitchford speaks just weirdly about the whole game.
Very
I will
off
get
the
there.
chain, yeah.
Okay, so flash forward a little bit, there's another Reddit post, this time from a former employee of Timegate. Timegate, who is no longer a company, shut down after this whole fiasco.
Of course.
yeah, surprise.
Gearbox just taking other companies and putting them in the dirt.
Kind of like what Valve did to them.
Yeah. Just to clarify, this is from a former Timegate dev. Just to clarify, everything Timegate did was under clear and explicit direction from Gearbox. Gearbox had creative control of everything that occurred at Timegate. In addition, Gearbox was responsible for firing some of the most talented people and internationally recognized as such Timegate had employed, all of which were snatched up immediately by our competitors. It was Gearbox's shitty oversight of the project that led to the product you all now have before you. I wouldn't expect you to understand, considering you're probably some QA who has no idea what goes on outside of his department, but Timegate has absolutely no control over what was produced. They did exactly what they were asked to. You should be furious with Gearbox for assigning such shit-quality creative directors to our project. There was also a lot of talk about how the script being incredibly confusing was all 20th Century Fox's fault.
I played that game. It was confusing.
They apparently approved. They were given that script, and they were like, yeah, this is Aliens. We approve. The game was also shown off in a completely fake press demo that looked good.
I think you can still find this. I
Yes.
think you can watch it.
Yeah.
But it was running on high-end PCs.
Was this Sega's high render trailer thing?
I think so.
It might have been, yeah.
But again, the game wasn't running on consoles at all, and in order to get the game out in time and get it running on the consoles, the game's particle effects and shaders were decreased significantly in quality, and the textures were reduced in order to get them to fit into the PS3's memory,
Oh my god!
as TimeGate could not get it working at all on PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were watching a video earlier where.
Yeah, I was just about to talk
Yeah,
about
go ahead.
that. So I was watching this guy on YouTube, Yang Yeah, I think is his name or whatever, but he was covering a lot of like Randy Pitchford and just like how he's dealt with these controversies, just like in 10-minute videos or whatever.
Not well.
Yeah, and I watched the IGN interview also. Obviously, I brought it up before. So what happened was like Randy got asked about that. Sorry, Mr. Pitchford, Sir Pitchford, got asked about.
He was knighted.
Yeah, right. He was asked about that game in that interview, and originally he was like all the things you said, like not given enough time. They announced it before we were ready, and then literally up next to it while he's saying like not given enough time, it's like 6.5 years in development.
Yeah.
Well, not just
And
that.
so it's like it's diverting funds and resources, and I get that. That makes sense, especially with Borderlands. You know,
Yeah.
Randy Pitchford said like there's YouTube videos out there where it shows the demo versus the final, and those
Yeah.
are that's just like dumb shit.
Well, yeah,
like it was just
specifically-
like stupid bullshit, I think is what
Yeah,
he said.
specifically when you just said that they had to tone down the fucking textures and stuff. There's a video where a guy's walking through a tunnel and it collapses, and a marine is flying through the air and slams on the top of the tunnel, and he's blood splatters, and it creates a glass shattering effect, and the body bounces off. Then as you're running through the tunnel, the pressure from the tunnel condensing into outer space is fucking shattering the glass, and then you watch the actual gameplay version, and the body just slams, and there's just blood.
Yeah.
No glass
Okay,
effect.
so-
And
No
Pitchford-
glass shattering. Like, they had to
All right, so-
minimize
No,
those
but-
particle effects. Like,
Yeah.
it's just funny to see the actual.
Well, here's
like,
the thing.
Pitchford speaks specifically about that in the interview.
Really?
And says,
That scene?
and says like the demo versus final, where
That
the
does
glass
happen with
shattering-
games
no,
a lot, but-
he's saying like he says it was an artistic
He said it was an
choice.
artistic
He
choice.
just says, and like you watch the final footage, and the body still hits it, and the blood
Yeah.
still comes out, and it looks
So-
so dumb without the glass
So I'm
shattering.
bad.
not
It
sure
looks
if you
bad.
mentioned, Austin, but Aliens Colonial Marines eventually did come out in 2011.
Yes.
That was, yeah. So what's interesting is what you brought up earlier about the Game Informer cover story with Borderlands 1. I don't know if anybody remembers this at the time, but I was a big Alien fan. I liked that first movie a whole lot. I think that franchise has been super up and down, but for the most part, it's a world that I think is interesting.
Predator.
But when that cover story came out about Colonial Marines, I think it was right after the new generation of consoles launch. This is maybe 06, 07? Like I don't remember.
Would
when
that
was-
be the 360 and
What, the
pieces?
Game
the
Informer?
GM
That would have been
Informer-
2007.
2007?
Yeah.
Okay, so that had all of these screenshots in it that were like, this is gameplay. And it was almost like a Killzone 2 situation where I don't know if it was manipulated or
remember
photoshopped
that.
or from this early version that changed. But at the time, that was like people were passing those screenshots around of like, this is what the next generation is fucking capable of. It's crazy. And up for pre-order forever and all that stuff. But yeah, when the game came out eventually, it was a fucking broken mess. And not only that, but it had so many graphical downgrades, as evident by these quotes, and funds being diverted and all that stuff. And it's kind of a shame because eventually Alien as a property did get, I think, its respected release years later with Isolation. That was the
Probably
true,
one of the best games of that whole console generation.
Yeah, that was the true solution to this. But I think there was even a prior to that, but after Colonial Marines, a sort of reboot of Alien vs. Predator on the 360 and
Yeah.
PS3 as well, and I don't remember thinking much of that either. But yeah, I mean, now Colonial Marines is going to go down as, like Duke Nukem Forever, as being one of the most longest and troubled developments with a final product that did
Yes.
not review or sell particularly
And
well.
Aliens Colonial Marines is going to be the end of part 1.
Yeah.
And the reason I decided to end it there is because Randy Pitchford obviously messed up a lot, but we originally designed this episode to be about Randy Pitchford's sort of social media flubs. The social media flubs, I've read a couple quotes from him that were not exactly the best, but the social media flubs didn't really start until their next game, Battleborn, which we will get into. But Aliens Colonial Marines is kind of the end of Gearbox fucking up and the start of like just Randy Pitchford just kind of being dumb.
Yeah, we're breaking into the modern era sort of now.
And like the thing is, like in the same breath as Randy Pitchford will say, like blame everybody else for any failure in that game, he will also stand by it and said, look, I'm proud of what we did. Like that kind of thing.
I mean,
and it's hard to...
It's easy to forget the hype and disappointment around a lot of these earlier games just because of how quickly the industry moves on.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's fair.
But on our next episode where we're going to get deep into Battleborn and the development of Borderlands 3, that's where it's going to...
But first...
tie into...
I'm going to end this episode with a clip.
Yeah.
Now, this clip is the clip that went viral when Aliens Colonial Marines came out.
Is this an explanation for the game's quality?
No.
Okay.
This is an interview Randy Pitchford did with GameSpot about the game before it came out.
Ooh.
And this clip being shared after the game came out would transfer him from eccentric game creator into Reddit's worst enemy and one of the most hated game people on
So he went from Hideo Kojima to Peter Molyneux in just this interview?
in this one clip. All right, let's hit it.
Hit it.
So you have to be, careful and respect the authenticity of the universe. And in many regards, what's already been created gives us a lot to work with. But we've also been able to have fun adding to it. And I think the biggest advantage that this game gets, because it's Gearbox software building it, is we're not settling. Like a lot of games based on licenses, they become kind of work for hire projects, just milking a franchise. When Gearbox works in other people's space, it's because we love that space and we want to. When you think about a video game manifestation of the Aliens franchise, of course, you imagine, the big actions.
That's the important part of the
he's
quote.
like, yo, dog, this is going to be like GoldenEye.
Yeah.
That's why it's like, even if he's going to be like, even if he's going to say anything along the lines of like, the development wasn't the way I wanted it to be, it wasn't the way we wanted it to be.
This is prior to the game launch. Like, there's nothing wrong with speaking highly of your company and of your projects.
There's nothing inherently wrong with the clip. It's just in context.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So
no microtransactions in Aliens Colonial Marines.
There was a season pass.
There was.
I was just tying into current events.
But
jeez.
I'll do the wrap up.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. A lot of research went into this episode. Thanks, Mel,
as you can tell,
for joining us.
Yeah.
And we and she will be back next week for part 2, where we start diving into just how much Randy Pitchford should not have a Twitter.
Yeah. As long as with more personal sort of interjections
and
with our experience with these games. A lot of emotions.
You can follow us on
here.
all the social medias, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Hot Button Cast. We have a website, hotbuttoncast.com. You can go there and find all our episodes if this is somehow the first one you're discovering. We are probably currently playing Borderlands 3 as you are listening to this, because this is being recorded.
While you are also playing Borderlands 3.
This is being recorded before the game came out. I hope it's good. But
I'll cry if it's not.
You can also find and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, on Spotify, on Google Play, on all those services.
I got one joke, Jason. You can cut it out. Sorry.
That's a good way to preface it. Your joke.
No, I know. If you've been listening to this podcast, waiting for us to talk about Borderlands 3 and prep for the release, then you're just gonna have to wait till next week.
Yes. Get through Borderlands 3 in the week. Wait for our next episode,
and then get into the development.
Yes.
But it's just like Randy Pitchford's E3 presentation for Borderlands 3. Saved all the good shit for the end. So.
Yeah. All right. And with that, we're out.
Good night.